A silent alarm just went off in the global defense industry. China has abruptly halted the export of titanium, a metal so vital it's woven into the frame of nearly every U.S. fighter jet, submarine, and spacecraft. The F-35 program alone depends heavily on titanium's strength-to-weight ratio, and now, the entire Western supply chain is bracing for disruption. This isn't about politics on the surface. No angry speeches, no official sanctions, just a quiet move with massive consequences. And the timing? Intentional. As tensions rise over Taiwan, South China Sea patrols, and tech restrictions, Beijing just reminded the world. It doesn't need to fire a missile to shake global power. All it has to do is close the tap. Titanium is one of the most critical strategic metals in the modern world. It's stronger than steel, lighter than aluminum, and highly resistant to heat and corrosion. These unique properties make it irreplaceable in aerospace, military, and medical industries. From F-35 fighter jets to nuclear submarines, hypersonic missiles, and even surgical implants, titanium is everywhere. But behind its widespread use lies a vulnerability. China dominates the global titanium supply chain. While the U.S. does have some domestic sources, they're limited. And refining titanium is an energy-intensive, expensive process. For decades, manufacturers turned to China because it offered both low-cost raw material and refining capacity at scale. Today, over 60% of the world's processed titanium originates from China, giving Beijing a quiet but potent leverage point over the West. This isn't the first time China has weaponized materials. Back in 2010, it restricted rare earth exports to Japan during a territorial dispute. The message was clear then, and it's clear now. China understands the power of controlling what others take for granted. With titanium now under export restrictions, the West may be entering a new era where metal becomes a weapon just as powerful as missiles. China's decision to restrict titanium exports didn't come with bold headlines, but it sent shockwaves through the defense and manufacturing sectors. In early reports, Chinese customs quietly adjusted export licensing requirements for key titanium alloys and semi-finished products. Companies must now undergo strict state-level reviews to ship titanium abroad, with no guarantees of approval. While not an outright ban, this bureaucratic chokehold effectively slows or stops supply to Western nations. Officially, Beijing says the move is meant to optimize national resource protection and prevent over-exporting strategic materials. But analysts see a different motive: geopolitical leverage. Tensions between the U.S. and China are escalating, from chip bans and naval maneuvers to trade tariffs and semiconductor wars. In this environment, Beijing's restriction looks less like economic policy and more like strategic signaling. And it's not just about punishment, it's about testing the West's dependency. By quietly turning off the tap on a resource the world rarely talks about but can't live without, China is showing that it can apply pressure without confrontation. Titanium is just the latest warning shot. And if the U.S. can't replace it fast, its most advanced defense systems could be left grounded. The United States defense industry runs on titanium, and now it's facing a serious supply shock. From the F-22 and F-35 fighter jets to Virginia-class submarines, helicopters, and even missile systems, titanium is everywhere in the Pentagon's most advanced equipment. Its unique strength-to-weight ratio makes it ideal for aircraft frames, armor plating, jet engines, and components that operate under extreme stress. But here's the problem. While the U.S. has domestic titanium ore reserves, it relies heavily on China for processed titanium, especially titanium sponge, the raw material used to produce aerospace-grade parts. If China's export restrictions tighten further, defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon could face production delays, higher costs, and redesign challenges. The F-35 program alone uses thousands of titanium components per aircraft, most of which are time-sensitive and require certified supply chains. Pentagon officials have already raised concerns. With global demand rising and supply squeezed, titanium could become the next rare Earth-style bottleneck in defense procurement. In a worst-case scenario, projects could be stalled, defense readiness impaired, and future exports threatened. This isn't just about metal, it's about national security. And right now, that security depends on a supply chain that China controls more than anyone wants to admit. China's titanium restrictions aren't just a U.S. problem, they're a global wake-up call. Across Europe, Canada, Australia, and NATO-aligned countries, defense and aerospace firms are reviewing their supply chains with growing urgency. Companies like Airbus, Rolls-Royce, and BAE Systems rely on stable titanium flows for jet engines, airframes, and armor systems. The civil aviation sector is equally exposed. With commercial aircraft production ramping up post-pandemic, even a slight delay in titanium shipments could derail timelines and cost billions. In medical and automotive industries, titanium's role in implants and lightweight parts adds further stress to the supply ecosystem. Until now, few noticed how concentrated titanium refining had become, but this restriction shows that a single policy shift in Beijing can ripple across industries, borders, and alliances. The world isn't just facing a metal shortage. It's confronting a strategic dependency it can no longer ignore. In Washington, China's titanium move hasn't gone unnoticed, but the response has been cautious. Pentagon officials have begun internal reviews to assess stockpile levels and potential disruptions to key defense programs. Lawmakers from both parties are calling for greater investment in domestic titanium processing and a revival of strategic metal refining under the Defense Production Act. Some in Congress are pushing for increased cooperation with allies like Australia, Canada, and Japan, who possess titanium resources but lack large-scale refining infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is reportedly considering export control retaliation or incentives for U.S.-based refining projects. However, rebuilding titanium supply capacity will take years, not months. For now, the U.S. defense supply chain remains vulnerable, dependent on a geopolitical rival for a metal that holds the future of its most advanced weapons. Washington is aware of the threat. The real question is, will it act fast enough? Replacing China's titanium won't be easy, but it's not impossible. The U.S. does have titanium reserves, and allies like Australia and Kazakhstan can help. But the challenge lies in processing capacity. Refining titanium sponge at the scale and purity required for aerospace takes time, investment, and environmental clearance. Restarting shuttered U.S. plants or building new ones could take 3-5 years, and costs would be significantly higher than importing from China. In the short term, the U.S. may rely on stockpiles and friendly suppliers, but long-term independence will require a full-scale industrial strategy, one that's still in early stages. This isn't just about titanium, it's about leverage. By targeting a niche but vital resource, China is signaling that economic tools can achieve what diplomacy or force cannot. It's a subtle form of strategic blackmail. Disrupt critical supply chains and watch rivals scramble. Beijing isn't just testing U.S. resilience. It's reminding the world that in an era of interdependence, materials can be as powerful as missiles. And with rare earths, lithium, and now titanium under tighter control, the message is clear. China is willing to weaponize trade to shape global outcomes. The age of silent warfare may have just begun. The world is now watching how the U.S. and its allies respond. Will Washington fast-track titanium production? Will new alliances form to bypass Chinese control? Or will delays and supply gaps expose deeper weaknesses in Western defense? One thing is certain, this is no longer just a trade issue. It's a strategic shift in global power dynamics. What began as a quiet export change could spark a broader race for resource independence, supply chain security, and industrial resilience. Because in the next conflict, it won't just be about weapons. It'll be about who controls what goes into them.